front of you guys at home seem to be favoring Empire, and I would generally tend to agree with that, but let's see by how much as we get into our first map, we get into our initial ban phase.
A long road ahead of us and a pretty fun best of 3 in between these two starts now. Get into this ban phase here as Empire will be starting us off with a Thatcher ban. Definitely going to be one that we see pretty rudimentarily here on Clubhouse. More than likely the other offender going to be a pretty straightforward one as well. What we'll have to see as we get down the last couple seconds here, it's going to be Hibana, and that's quite expected when it comes to the hatch play here on Club.
Yep, no huge surprises on our attacker bans. I would imagine that defender bans as well going to fall in line pretty much with what we've come to expect. Could get a curveball or two here, but that's an interesting one actually, as Maestro is going to be coming in. Not necessarily a common ban, I would say, but one that definitely makes decent sense. The proficiency of the intel of the cameras, as well as the fact that it can impact, so, you know, for your basement holds and whatnot, he's going to be pretty useful, potentially trying to trick out like kitchen hatches and stuff like that. It's a comfort pick for a lot of teams, so getting rid of it is certainly going to shake things up a tad.
All right, well, time to talk about how complicated this just got because of this ban phase. With Maestro and Valkyrie both gone, that's going to require, or limit the intel rather, on defense just a little bit. But the big thing that I want to talk about is this Thatcher ban with no Kaid ban coming through. Especially with Hibana now gone, this is going to require quite a bit of hard breach in order to get a lot of these hatches open. The big struggle bus that they're going to be on for this one, John, is going to be the kitchen hatch, and how scary that thing's going to be to actually get now. They'll have to actually end up destroying some utility from underneath in order to do so. So it's going to be pretty difficult in order to get that hatch initially for the offense, but we'll have to see what these teams can possibly do.
We do still have Maverick in play, obviously, so there is some good capability to be able to potentially utilize him to quickly knock some of those out. On top of that, too, you have the secondary hard breach, which can certainly assist with that. But once again, as Stokes was mentioning, still going to have to try and work your way past the actual K charges first, which is going to be the bigger issue here for Empire, or rather for SANDBOX, it should seem, on the opening half. But the good news is, no pick initially, so not going to at least have to deal with that on our first round. Certainly could become a factor on future rounds, though, but like we were talking about, it's really the hatch play where it's a much bigger issue. Things like the balcony walls and whatnot can be very easily countered by Maverick, so this is the big ticket item where we're expecting to see a K, and it's actually somewhat surprising to see Empire not choosing to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely the case, but obviously, like, there is ways to counter it out with a lot of explosives and stuff like that in order to achieve that, and from what we've seen at this LAN, frags have been the name of the game inside of Rainbow Six, and it's going to be no different here for SANDBOX, as we have Invitational on Sledge. Nova will more than likely be bringing them for himself as well. And if you guys look to the top hand, right-hand side of your screen, you can see all of the utility being brought by SANDBOX. It'll give you a numerical value as well. So we have 6 frags. So we know that 3 people are bringing those along for the ride. Shayal will also have the impacts as well inside of that lifeline, so plenty of opportunity to be able to get rid of those later on. But the big wall that I'm worried about past that hatch has got to be the CCTV wall, where you get some cheeky electroclaws later. But that's for another time. We're about 30 seconds in here into round 1 as Invitational is already beginning his works on the kitchen flooring. You can see Dan trying to contest this, and speaking of Dan, we're expecting a much bigger game out of him today. He started off so very strong at this tournament, but M&M shutting him down in a very big way yesterday.
And we're going to already start looking for potential top-down fights here, but nothing will be presented inside of the first minute of play as SANDBOX are not even close to potentially opening up that hatchet. That's when you would more than likely start to see the contestation come in from Empire there. A good find from Invitational. Does catch at least one member of Empire hiding out inside of the main hall, but not going to be able to react quickly enough to get the player itself as he moves out of the way fairly swiftly into the depths of Church, I do believe, where things are going to be a little bit safer, a little bit more tucked away here. So we reach the halfway point of the round. We can see SANDBOX starting to pop up in those hatches. Nova on the Maverick here, going to be opening up the first one, giving them access down into Moto. And they'll probably focus up on the kitchen hatch, and they're going to be wanting to use that. Could bypass that, though, if they want to choose to not try and waste a massive amount of time to get access to it. But things will start out well. Meanwhile, for Shepard, he's going to be able to find Static upstairs and eliminate the Yana.
Yeah, Shayal will also be solo dolo here over inside of Secret Stairs for the time being. Out of drones for him as well, but still plenty of active drones for SANDBOX to be able to utilize to get some extra information on this space. Joystick will be manning blue for now with Dan at Dummies Box for the cross, as with the rest of the squad currently just waiting inside of sight to see what SANDBOX's next move is going to be. And what is it going to be? Well, Harbor will be getting the hatch open here inside of Kitchen. That's the thermite charge down. They'll have to clear that laser gate here in just a second. Nova does not want to give up a drone for that. They much rather use something else so they can use that info from that drone for yellow pings and other things to be able to secure some frags as they are trying to drop down this space. You can see Shayal starting to creep forward here. Slow and steady wins the race, but does it win it against Joystick, the cyborg himself, especially on this cross? Shael, so much to do, but luckily that LMG so damaging. He doesn't catch Dan, though, at Dummy's box, and the nice cross works out. Dan sees one drop. He'll be able to secure him as well, but not before Harper springs, too. Joystick doubles back, though, through blue, and now it's all down to NV Taylor, who simply has to look down through the kitchen hatch. He'll try and nade things out, has to drop eventually here. Might not even do so, might just wait around instead and see if he can get a frag. He'll be able to do so. Can he get the second? No, it'll be on from always here as Empire secure round one.
Aggressive push from Dan deeper to the inside of Arsenal there allows him to get a multi-kill and for the most part shut down the hatch play, limiting any real estate that our attackers on SANDBOX were going to get. A definitive statement from Empire to start out the round as it's a pretty straightforward hold from them, and SANDBOX are just not able to get anywhere near enough real estate, let alone positioning, to be able to appropriately attack the site. That'll be a 1-0 lead for Empire, and they'll move swiftly along upstairs now into their CCTV and cache hold.
And already we're starting to see some issues for SANDBOX Gaming. Able to get the timing initially for Kitchen, but past that, the mid-round, John, very slow moving. Really nothing going on, not looking to try and progress for picks or put any pressure on these Empire members. Especially with their push into blue, you would expect a little bit more active play around that space, just given the fact that there's so many Empire members alive. Joystick's more than likely going to have some assistance, and that's exactly what he had in that scenario. So for SANDBOX, back to the drawing board, but it won't be back into the same site. It'll be CCTV this time around.
Yep, Empire going to Swiss cheese up the balcony wall real quickly there in order to give them or rather give their opponents a bit more of a difficult time. Doesn't really, slow down things too heavily. Just adds an extra like 5 to 10 seconds to the Maverick clear time. And obviously that can build up over the course of a round if you have other methods of delaying through small means here. Empire, of course, reinforcing things in the garage. You get the usual rotation over there towards red as well. No surprises here when it comes to our defensive setup. Empire just going to play this in pretty straightforward fashion. Even the operator lineup aligning pretty well with what we would have come to expect here. The K charge is certainly going to be present, and those actually probably won't even be used over towards the usual area you would expect them to go in the balcony panel. It's going to be more than likely assisting the hold on garage, and there you go. Both of them are deployed to electrify both of those.
Those Electro Claws will hold up both of those garage panels, just like you were saying, always knowing somebody crossed simply because of the shadow that passed under the door, so he knows they'll probably be trying to apply themselves underneath him here in a moment. It's really up to Nova to try and open these things up, or at least get rid of these Electro Claws or something of the sort. Biggest issue is that obviously those are going to be up in the rafters, so they'll have to try and find a different method in order to do so. Joystick will be on the roam down low, and he might end up finding himself a Static here soon enough. A Static will get rid of the cam. Joystick obviously now knows what's going on in that space. ARX obviously doesn't have a suppressor, as nobody really runs those inside of competitive play, so he's going to know exactly what's going on inside of that bar space, but he'll get droned out prior, and luckily enough, the engagement won't happen for either side.
So Static being fairly cautious of any aggression to come out from Empire. And it's a good thing, too, as he's going to get it. Dan just waltzes right down to the bottom of the first floor, thinking there wouldn't have been anyone on this angle watching it, and gets a surprise as he's taken out very quickly. Now Static getting revenge for the last round here, and they get the opening kill this time for SANDBOX.
Joystick making an adjustment here as always. We'll have the audio cube, the torch going down low, and that nitro cell, I believe, out of the CCTV window. Yep, right out of construction. Shepard just sprints on over, chucks that down low, and that's going to be not only the Maverick gone, but I mean the CCTV wall, I do believe it's locked up now. I don't think that they opened that initially. No, they did. They did end up getting that open. So that is good news. I was a little scared there for just a split second, but luckily enough, they had the utility in order to do so. Still a winnable situation here for SANDBOX, but obviously as Joystick starts warming up here, this is starting to look bleak.
Yeah, Empire really reasserting their control over the front lobby as well as stock area here. Now SANDBOX still trying to work their way past it. Static moves in, really just to confirm the Joystick is still holding over by the garage transition over into the front lobby area, so they can try to nade him out. We'll see if there's any resistance to that. It'll bank off the corner, but Joystick's got plenty of real estate on the walls there to be able to block out the large majority of that damage. He's actually going to take a bit of a cheeky spot just below the landing here, try and see if he can hide in plain sight, but never mind. We'll get spotted out by a drone and has to reposition once again here, and will finally be caught by Shael over by the blue window. One small gesture, though, is it's only even things out, and with 3v3, a lot more clearing needs to be done, and only 35 seconds to accomplish it here for SANDBOX as they're quickly running out of time.
Well, speaking of suppressors, Shael will indeed have one. The only beauty of that is you have no tracers when you're spamming walls and things like that, so it's difficult to know where the bullets are coming from. Obviously, always will get a read just a little bit as to what's going on, but with very low time here, Scyther can actually delay. Still has the smoke in his pocket. With 10 seconds remaining, he'll be able to more than likely either smoke off the stairwell or prevent the plant. Scyther's going to go down, though. Beautiful shot there from Static. It's all up to Shepard now here. Doesn't have a nitro cell, and Static will be able to find the frag. A little weird there from both sides, but luckily enough, enough for SANDBOX. Empire's going to give up the bag.
Yeah, a few missteps on both ends, most notably there as we start to see things deteriorate for Empire. Their players are just far too detached from each other, basically guaranteeing that all of the final 3 fights for SANDBOX are going to be just detached 1v1s. And once we see our player in Garage getting pushed out due to a slight misposition from him, leaving like a foot or something open, allowing him to be bled down from the front garage door, it's the beginning of the end there as the remaining 2 are not really able to support each other adequately to try to trade that back out. Empire, though, not going to go for the retry. They think that that was a pretty surefire win for the SANDBOX side, so they're going to head over to Gym and Bedroom instead and see if they have better luck on this hold where they can hopefully stick together a bit better.
Well, Empire feeling as though Kaid is, well, he's the answer, I guess. The 6-pick comes in, and they're going to 6-pick right back onto him. So we'll see what they want to use those for this time around. Usually the highlight of this is going to be the jacuzzi wall and how long you can hold on to that. But obviously it's going to be fairly straightforward affair for SANDBOX yet again. As they do have Nova, you should be seeing this Maverick every single time on the offensive side, as he is of the utmost importance in the current situation that we're in, given the Thatcher ban with Kaid still being on the board.
Once again, no huge splits from the normal here for Team Empire in terms of their defensive play, and over on the SANDBOX side of things, you could pretty much see the same thing as well here. Lots of range soft breach potential coming in from Shyall there to possibly open things up from down below should the need arise. And then the plethora of nades also still going to be coming in there, mainly between Invitational as well as Static. With our hard breach team being between Nova and Harper to open things up over in Jacuzzi, and as well the kind of backup hard breach so that they can try to get down the bathroom wall. Of course, this side wall over here towards the security balcony as well.
Now, SANDBOX out and about. Static already moving his way in through kitchen, and are they aware of this? It seems like they are, and Joystick's going to miss a crucial shot. Static immediately tears his head off as he comes to the bottom of main. Red Grenade out to try and clear out the lone area. No one home in the current moment. Looks like now with Empire losing Joystick, will still stay extended here out towards the cache side. That'll be good info for Scyther as Dan still on the roam and has the ability to equalize here if he can find his frag. No one downstairs any longer, though. Was that a botched nade? It was not, but it's not going to get the Electro Claw. I actually believe it ended up going in between the walls. It does tend to happen sometimes, and that nade's going to go far. Will it get the Electro Claw? It does indeed. So luckily enough for Harper, they will be able to get the Jacuzzi wall open now. But look at this. Dan down low. Does still have Static in the area, who has been playing so damn well for SANDBOX this entire tournament. Really been the saving grace in certain moments. But now Scyther, he'll actually be the one to find the kill to put us back to a 4 versus 4.
Aside from the first round, Static has been keeping a great watch over his position here. Just got off the drone, though, and didn't manage to catch the transition through the bathroom. So this is an opportunity here for our member hiding out right now in first floor bathroom. Could easily flank around onto Static if the opportunity presents itself, but the angle's going to be a little awkward. You'll still have to see Dan get into a better position to actually figure out where he's at. He's lurking towards it now, as you can see, though. As he moves over towards Billiards, there as always is more than likely check the hatch, made it all clear, so he knows he's not near here, but still needs to find the winning angle here, and Static is none the wiser to this for the reasons I said before. His drone did not go into the bathroom, so he did not spot him. Doesn't believe he's down here right now. That could be the end of him, as we're going to see right here. Dan finally striking true and grabbing Static.
Small game of ring around the Rosie, and
oh no,
Nova! His shots go wide, and Shepard catches Harper. It's all down to Invitational. The team captain gets diced up as he drops down the hatch. And Empire bounced back here in round 3.
Falls apart so quickly, so unfortunately there. As soon as Static falls, we see Nova trying to counter, but the aim is way off the mark. And from that point forward, there was no support structure left. It's just a very one-dimensional push remaining for SANDBOX, so they get shut down very similarly to the first round. And speaking of which, we're heading back to that site once again.
Still a little early in the morning for us gamers, John. More than likely just waking up here, gotta get the energy going, get the adrenaline rolling here, but obviously that'll be coming in bountiful loads for both of these squads as we're starting to get energized now in between these two. Static seemingly very awake, even though he did end up getting fragged out after he was able to find the initial frag onto Joystick, but kind of a slow rolling offense overall. Some beautiful shots there from Dan inside of that round. He's going to be happy with that one as they're able to secure their second one. They're going to head back downstairs where they were successful the first time around. and they're still going to board off the Kayi, just not feeling like he's important in the current moment. And, you know, honestly, that's perfectly okay. The hatch play around that space is pretty difficult to actually hold onto the Electric Claw specifically for Kitchen. He's more important when it comes to things like the Moto hatch as well as Blue, but as long as they have Maverick, it's just going to be a little extra time like John was talking about before. You're just delaying a little longer. That could play into, you know, the game of Siege a little bit when it comes to timing, especially when it gets to those low time executes, but overall Empire is favoring other utility.
So SANDBOX, once again, going to be able to rerun against virtually the same strategy. Obviously a slight difference in Dan bringing Legion into the fold this time to try and trip things up with the Goo Mines, and well, more than likely because he will try to mess around with things on the first floor a little bit for this first 30 to 40 seconds while the members of SANDBOX move in for their initial clear. And if he can grab someone from this position, that'll be even better for his team to try and wait out the remaining 2 minutes that would remain after that point to try and close out a second consecutive basement defense. The drones now working their way in through that strip side or over towards the bathroom area. Dan is going to descent back into the basement before it rolls by him, though, so no intel provided onto him. SANDBOX will make the all-clear signal in just a moment once they complete this run with their drones and start to take first-floor control, and as well start to open up all these top-down angles to, again, try to give them access to the basement.
Well, a solid start for Shepard inside of this one, and to be expected from one of the best support players in the world. 4-1-1 in the current moment, as he was just assisting Dan a little while ago with that extended hold for just a split second to see if any of the SANDBOX members wanted to try and hop to into the kitchen hall, or rather the kitchen. Shepard will still be manning the bottom of the stairwell in this M590. We all know how damaging this thing can be. Do you believe? That's the real question, as Shepard will back off and use the SMG-11 and instead at range. Noah will begin his work on the hatches, and this is exactly why the Electric Claws wouldn't really play too well into the scenario anyways, because the torch will just bust them down and just more than likely do a very small amount of damage to Nova as his hands grace over the top of the hatch. About halfway through now, as SBX still has quite a bit to do, at least with the kitchen space, but already able to get 2 of these hatches open, so not too worried about it at the end of the day. Some shots will head over the top of Static's head, but he'll send a couple shots downrange, one making contact as Shepard will lose quite a bit of HP.
Yeah, Empire gonna have to back up now as a result of that, so SANDBOX once again getting into execute positioning and having a lot more to play with this time as well here. So Empire might have their work cut out for them inside of this final minute of the round due to the positions that SANDBOX now maintain. Where is the push going to come in from first? That is the next question here for SANDBOX, and it's gonna be a minute while we get an answer. As Harper, as you can see, they're trying to open up access towards Church. It's actually going to be Joystick to strike first overall in this round, as he grabs Shy All. Normally has been the entry king here for SANDBOX, so a big piece of the puzzle now going to be missing. A Nitro chucked out to try and grab Static, but it will miss. And Harper tries to go in for a response, but no dice on that one either. Still just the earlier damage done to players like Joystick, Dan, and Shepard to account for. And now only 30 seconds left to play into it. First smoke goes in for Harper to make them feel like they're maybe going to try and push out through the Moto doorway. They're also going to send the Gemini clone back through the main hallway here to try to get some intel, but it's immediately shot out. Not a whole lot going to be transitioned to the other side. NB Taylor does line up not just 1, but 2 shots, however, against the members of Team Empire. Scyther for a response, and he's going to look for a double of his own here as we come down to just 15 seconds left. The response from Scyther did drop the case onto the ground here, and Shepard and Joystick, along with Scyther once again, strike true to fend off the rest of the attack from Joystick and pick up another round for Empire.
Beautifully done there from Empire, and wouldn't you know, John, the kitchen hatch not being opened inside of that scenario. Very unfortunate for SANDBOX, as they can't apply pressure in the same way with that hatch sealed like that, so they have to go to the bottom of main and try and push in that way instead. Fortunately enough for Empire, they're able to get the comms clean and clear and understand what's going on in the moment, especially with the way that SANDBOX were able to push that. NV Taylor with 2 big kills as he transitioned into Armory, but Scyther catching him off guard as he tries to put the case down. Very well done there from Empire to keep cool, calm, and collected.
So once again, ring around the rosy here for Team Empire. They're just going to go right back to the same sites they've already played into, upstairs into CCTV and Cash once again. This was obviously the one where we saw a fault for Empire here. SANDBOX able to abuse the positioning from Empire, slowly eliminate these guys out one by one, especially once it got down towards a 3v3. Empire never really had the opportunity to regroup closer to the site, so all their remaining players were too spread out. SANDBOX was able to 1v1 their way into a win there, taking full control of their first and unfortunately for them, only round so far in this map. We'll see if it'll yield secondary success, or once again, if Empire's adjustments are now going to come into the fold here. As we're actually going to get a Bandit pick, interestingly enough, for Shepard here, alongside a Cade. So they're really going to be looking to electrocute pretty much everything here. I'd imagine even the balcony walls are going to get reinforced, even though it'll be relatively futile in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely the case, my friend. Get these electric claws back down. Always will secure those. We'll get some bandit batteries out here as well. Just make sure those don't get blown so quickly. And honestly, looking back, obviously hindsight usually 2020. I do believe that they actually did end up leaving that wall unfortified before. They did have reinforcements, but unfortification in Siege usually just tends to mean, well, it wasn't electrified, so you get to blow it for free. And that's exactly what happened in that last one, I am assuming. Nova, though, he'll be quick to the trigger, or quick to the torch here, as he'll begin torching up the wall, upside down rappel. Don't get to see this one happen enough anymore, as Nova will begin torching the top end of the sheets here. See that line going through just yet there, as it will eventually go soft on the right-hand side here. This usually tends to mean that we'll be planting right on that door, right on that gray brick wall here. Could see a smoke come in here for Harper a little later on to try and assist with that, but obviously Empire seemingly aware that this could be a possibility, as they have Scyther lined up with a deployable shield at the top of Cache stairs, and obviously his toxic smokes will be able to thwart that off if it does happen.
Envy now going to start lurking up as he's taking control upstairs in gym and bedroom here, still being cautious due to what happened on a previous attempt here, keeping watch on the main stairs in case there's going to be any late flank attempts from Empire back down through the bar. Not sure if SANDBOX have taken control of that part of the map for themselves yet, but it does not appear as though that's the case here. For the most part, they've ignored the first floor hold, if there is going to be one from Team Empire, as they spent way too much time trying to clear it on the last attempt here, so they're going to instead try to go directly for construction play and see if they can work their way towards the site a bit more quickly through that avenue.
I'll be able to get a drone here, and as that construction has been bursted, luckily enough for Empire, the other bandit batteries on the construction double here, right to Dan's left-hand side, so Static will have to find a way to clear that. Possibly with a frag grenade, but he does end up sending that in. Nova's going to have some options for himself as well, so he'll be able to bounce one off, and as it go off, it will. Should be able to clean up those as Harper starts applying his exothermic charge. Static watching over the top of Green Box will rip the head off of Dan. Nova will lose his life throw through the torch lines, as Joystick trying to get the flank in, and no flank drones, nobody paying attention, and they're going to lose so many lives! Dan with a triple kill! Oh my goodness! Actually, Joystick rather got a little bit too excited there, but either way, what a way to flank up the stairwell. You'd assume with so many bodies up, as well as one just down per SANDBOX, that there'd be a flank cam around somewhere, but not a single person considering that Joystick could be in the space. Shyall now will just sit on the roof with a single sliver of HP, and this is more than likely just a makeshift timeout.
What did I say right at the beginning of the round there? As we saw SANDBOX going for the clearance upstairs in gym and bedroom, they chose to ignore the downstairs play. They had to be careful of someone like Joystick wrapping back up through main stairs, as they always had presence the entire round. Back over in the bar, back over towards the front door area here, as we're now seeing Shyall take control of that, but no one watching that flank when he decided to make his ascent, so Joystick goes huge and picks up that triple kill for himself, and is able to shut down the round nearly single-handedly for Empire, as they rebound on their second attempt up here, and CCTV and Cache take control without too much of an issue, and now go in for their final round, which is probably going to be another gym bedroom hold.
You have to feel for SANDBOX in that moment, because Joystick just pulled the wind from their sails. I mean, they had so much going for them in that moment, especially with the two big picks that they were able to secure, but when you get a triple kill like that, that's really all she wrote for Siege. There's no way that you're going to bounce back from that unless something absurd happens, and especially inside of competitive play. But now for SANDBOX, they're looking to go up 5-1, or rather Empire looking to go up 5-1 over SANDBOX. Gaming Heroes, they'll head back to gym bedroom. They're going to adopt Frost into the lineup. I really, really like this pickup here from Joystick, simply because of how SANDBOX have been working the map. You know, it's been a little aggressive, a little squirrely, and obviously the intel hasn't been really coming to light as much as you and I would hope here, John. So with Frost in play, this means we could definitely see some ankles getting nabbed.
So we'll see if that is going to transpire once again here for the Empire side of things, as they continue to dominate here and things continue to look more and more bleak for the side of SANDBOX Gaming. Remember, guys, the play-in contentions for our playoffs here for SANDBOX, they are potentially facing elimination at the end of this series here. They needed to get a 2-0 to be able to come out on top of this one and even have a chance of making it out in 4th place and knocking the Sonics out. And that's still depending on the Sonics not winning a single map in their own series, which is going on the other stream right now here. So if they do not rebound, if they do not find a way to come back in this map and go down 0-1, I'm pretty certain we'll obviously wait for confirmation from both our admin team and over at the command center for this, but I'm pretty sure that means SANDBOX are done if they drop this map.
Yeah, they can only get 2 points that way, and that would
only leave them in a tie in best case scenario.
And Sonics have the win over them in a 2-0 fashion. So yeah, you are completely right. I will put my name on that docket there, my friend. So yes, if SANDBOX doesn't take this map, it's over for them. Their SI hopes and dreams are gone, and unfortunately enough, that means that we won't have Envy Taylor and the remainder of the squad at the main stage. So this does mean quite a bit if you are rooting for the South Koreans. As for the Russian machine, though, they're going to continue to trudge on as expected. I mean, obviously starting things off on the west-hand side of the map here. Lots to do still for SANDBOX. We're still inside of the opening minute here. Get Nova over here and start torching up this line. Static just waiting to see if he can get a cheeky pick in through the hatch for Billiards, but that's to be expected. He was playing this exact same location the last time around. Frag Grenade initially will not be able to get the Electro Claw, so where the heck is it? Is asking SBX.
Slow roll up the
Oh, where is it,
SANDBOX.
actually? Oh, is it down low? It's downstairs. Static will finally find it, luckily enough, as we'll be able to clear that out. But again, look, it's taken up half the time here. Looks like they haven't been able to find it yet again. Maybe that wasn't what he destroyed down low. This time he'll finally be able to get it. We could have had yet another Electro Claw applied to that, but it looks like Harper will finally be able to blow this wall. But Empire doing a bang-up job of wasting so much time here. SANDBOX don't even have any info in sight. I'm almost down to the minute mark.
Yeah, the actual gun duos might be a bit of a mixed bag from time to time, but in terms of the capability for Empire to delay time, that has been unmatched in this series here. Nade's going to go in, does a good amount of damage to Shepard, but he's too far outside the box to be fully killed by it. Keeps himself alive. Doesn't want to make the hop because that could be in range of the angle of his opponent was taking a second ago. Still though, backing away from that one. Nearly takes the fight again, and in fact ends up inside of it. Shepard's got a lucky star watching him in this round as he survives once again with just a sliver of HP remaining. 1 or 2 at the most for him. And he's going to sit in the corner, tuck away, and just hope he can line up a headshot at some later point here if he needs to contribute.
Lucky star or a lucky prone key, I'd say. Shepard very low HP now, but that apparently isn't going to slow him down. He'll pick up Envy Taylor as Empire's already found 2 frags in the dying moments of this one. Harper now looking for a kill inside of Wade's, but the head just going to be missed as he'll have to dash back out the wall for the time being. With only 20 seconds remaining, though, they have to hop 2 at some point, and Dan is still holding on to logistics. So looks like SBX will have to try and propel themselves forward into these crossfires, and it's looking solid for Empire yet again here. Joystick with 1, Joystick with 2, but who's going to get the 3rd? It's all up to Static, very low HP. He'll take down Joystick, always will swing the angle, and Empire up 5-1.
Static's been trying his heart out here. Certainly he's been finding quite a few contributions, especially as the front leader for this team, but it's not going to be enough once again, as there's just far too many members of Empire live and far too little time remaining on the clock here. Empire make the run at 5-1, only upsetting on that first second floor hold that they went for in CCTV and Cash, where their players ended up 2 spread out in the 3v3 scenario. Aside from that, it's a nearly perfect defensive half from them, and it's bad news now for the SANDBOX fans, and they need to run nearly this next half flawlessly as well, and that's just to trigger overtime here. If they can go for 6, yeah, they can win it, but I'd say that's pretty unlikely. If we see even one more round picked up from Empire, it needs to be perfect for SANDBOX to save their tournament lives.
It's going to be Church Arsenal now. We'll see Kaid brought in here, so we'll see which hatches they want to try and lock up with this. They'll also have Mute for some other walls to be able to handle and deal with those. Make sure that, obviously, Team Empire cannot get access too early on here. Past that, a little bit of denial as well as some slowing of the overall force that Empire can use onto the site initially with these Banshees out of Shy also. Should be fairly straightforward here for SANDBOX. Gonna be putting these around the blue space as well as just the other odds and ends like the stairwells and things along those lines. So we'll have to see if this can possibly work out for SANDBOX.
Once again, No huge surprises when it comes to the actual setup here. We are going to see a bit of an extension come out, of course, from SANDBOX, as it looks like they're going to play a little bit into the SSG roam. And a couple players are going to be positioning themselves up on the second floor for that, and we'll more than likely see one or two of these stick around inside of the actual round. The rest will fall back and scurry away towards the basement here, so SANDBOX taking a risk with this setup here to try and see if it pans out for them and potentially allows them to take the early advantage needed. Like you said, they need to be bold here. They need to look for a quick path back into this game. This is do or die time, and even then, still relying on upsets from the Sonics camp over on the other stream to come out on top and make it out of this group. Things are bleak for SANDBOX, but they're still going to be trying their best and trying in a really earnest way here as they look to try and go for the SSG roam upstairs here on their basement hold. Empire will waste no time, of course, opening things up on their own regard. There is actually going to be a double reinforced panel over by the balcony area, but thankfully Maverick is in play for our attackers, so that's not going to be too much of an issue to work their way past. Things start out well here for SANDBOX, however, as Dan will be the first to fall. That's the buck going down too. No, there's a sledge, excuse me, to back that up, so it's not the end of the world. They are going to have the soft breach to follow that away, and on top of that, of course, the sledge still carrying the nades with him will mean that this team will be of no lack of destructive capability as well.
Well, it's still going to suck quite a bit, just because the skeleton key applies so well to this scenario, especially around the kitchen hall space. Joystick with the possibility of 2 here. Does he know that somebody else is going to try and pressure his bathroom? Seemingly aware in the moment, but obviously that's just the game sense as of right now. How far does Envy Taylor want to go with this? A yellow ping's already coming through, and more than likely a dead Envy coming. And yes, you have to be aware of the cameras inside of competitive play, folks. Just because you feel like you can sneak up on somebody doesn't mean that you can get it done, especially when it happens to be a robot like Joystick. 2 frags coming out for Empire as they're looking to seal this deal pretty damn early.
Certainly the case. Only one more round needed to lock in at minimum overtime for the rest of this map here. And even at that point forward, so many opportunities to find that 7th round. Empire are going to be living it up on easy street here if they're able to close things down for this one. Still going to be seeing at least the Yokai's left in play here, and a bit of a active Yokai play coming out now from the SANDBOX roster as well. And Nova with some good intel to play off of from that. The drone working its way down the stairs is going to be catching one player. Interesting note that Nitro going off right there as they just blow it up instead of keeping it in position. There wasn't really anyone to potentially blow up from it, and they had the camera looking right at it. So a bit of a waste coming out there from SANDBOX, but either way, it is done now. Nothing they can do about it. This time continues to get lower and lower for Empire's assault as well, as we encroach on the 40-second mark for this round.
Joystick and Scyther starting to get some serious intel down here inside of Armory. Static will back up towards the boxes. He'll be able to play a pretty cheeky angle out towards the hatches, but now with some frag grenades pouring in onto him, he'll be forced back yet again. Static taken down. He's been the biggest hope for SANDBOX this entire time. Nova hasn't found a frag just yet, and with Shayal down, lots to do now for Nova. Coming in and out of dirt, be able to swing out. Can he find the case? He won't. Scyther has the cover from the top side, and round 7 goes to Empire.
So even with a promising start, things very quickly go awry once again for SANDBOX, and they are now sitting here at the proverbial tournament death door. They have to try and bring this back flawlessly at this point, or they are done. Empire only needs one more round now to knock SANDBOX out of the running here and lock in this group.
Well, now for Empire, building themselves up on top of the bodies of SANDBOX in the current moment. 6-1 lead, which is truly incredible. Dominant on both sides of the coin as well. SANDBOX feeling like the gym bedroom defense can pull them out of it, at least in the moment. But as John was just saying, 5 rounds is what we need to see out of this team. And it starts here, and it starts now. Miro will come into play, so we'll more than likely see Harper playing this out towards Jacuzzi. This is more than likely we're going to see a lot of action going down, as we're used to seeing here in gym and bedroom. The cash side could obviously be the play as well, but Harper's going to be manning this for quite some time and trying to contest them off of this. Also going to be opening this up. This is where things can get risky with this space, and we're going to see more than likely some ADSs and discs applied to this area because of how risky it can get with all of the frag grenades coming from the offensive side nowadays. So we'll have to see if it ends up going down that way. Past that, we are going to have the panels reinforced actually inside of this cache area. I don't think that SANDBOX is willing to hold on to this. They've reinforced all the way across. If Empire does end up coming in through the east, this is just going to be free play.
So let's see here once again if Empire will be able to, first of all, catch that potential opening and then properly utilize it for themselves as well. SANDBOX now as well looking to try and control at least one more of these rounds, trying as hard as they can to hold on to this tournament for themselves. You can see Static even looking all the way out to the top garage rafters as well to try and find an opening pick here. Obviously, you'll see the Gemini quickly get taken out as it peeks in, confirms the position of Static, and he's looking to kind of lean himself out of here slowly but surely. He's got to be careful, of course. He's got a bit of a race to make it out.
Oh, what?
How did that happen? Always somehow ends up picking out Dan. So SANDBOX will take that, of course, and so I guess someone ADS'd and just clicked at the wrong time or something like that, and Dan becomes the victim of it.
You know what, Dan? We really don't need you. That's what it is. It's a survival tactic. You know, you don't want to give food to everybody. You just need it for yourself and some other people. So get Dan out of here, I guess, is what Empire is feeling. They'll be able to get a refrag, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Probably not all that much. Fortunately enough for Empire, they'll find that equalizer yet again. Static out here at the top of Cash Stairs. Gonna be holding onto this for a time as he will get droned out via the clone. Envy Taylor trying to assist him as well over here on the Cash door, as the Wamai will back off. They're more than likely going to start leaving this space here as well. Very fortunate as well that Empire did not end up grabbing the construction window earlier for the cutoff, so they'll be able to get the heck out of Dodge.
Still over half the round to go here, and now having even things out with the trade onto Nova. Rough game here, unfortunately, for Nova at 0-8 as well here, and it really hasn't been that great for the rest of the team. Ivor, Harper, and 1-7 here. Things get a little better from that point forward, but still, individual contributions are just not accounting to a whole lot here considering the scoreboard. It has been a rough go of it for SANDBOX. They may very well have to say goodbye to them very, very shortly here, as the rest of this series will essentially just be a scrim once this map is over, should Empire manage to take it. And you can say the same for the other series as well there. Things are locked in pretty nicely. Empire, of course, will still be looking to get some bonus points if they're able to 2-0 this. That'll give them a nice little 3-point boost compared to the 2 if they took this all the way to 3 maps. Have to double check where that would potentially leave them in the standings and if they'd be able to outpace another team, but either way, they're going to be feeling good about it. Nice nade from Joystick, lands right up on top of Static, knocks him out of the play, and now gives the player advantage back over to Empire.
The strongest series we've seen out of Joystick thus far, 14-3, an absurd score line that I'm sure no one really considered at the beginning of this. Shepard will be considering that peak yet again here, and yes, that is indeed case down on the roof, so they'll have to try and bounce back here. With only 24 seconds remaining though, they need to try and hop too, starting to bleed bodies across the map as Harper's stepping up. He only had 1 kill before this round, but 3 now as he's starting to collect as many Empire members as he can possibly muster. He'll be able to take down Always as well. There'll be a triple kill for him on the round, and now Scyther has to try and win this out instead of a 1 versus 2. He's going to go for the kills here as a walk in. He finds one, but where's the last member at? He's actually on top of the stairwell, and that headshot could have secured it, but luckily enough, the pistol will spray wide, and SANDBOX stay alive.
So SANDBOX survived for 1 round there. A bit of a blunder from the Empire camp and giving so many 1v1s over to Harper there. Was in a pretty palatable position for that round. And even with the case down, realistically considering the positions from SANDBOX, could have just DM'd their way out of that round if they had enough pressure building into the site, but took way too long to knock out Harper's position. And as a result of that, you see all the 1v2. They just did not have enough manpower, more importantly, time to win that one out there. So SANDBOX survive, but now the question becomes for how long? They need 4 more rounds just to get us to overtime.
Absolutely, and as we know with Empire, via the past and how long we've been able to watch this team, there's someone that doesn't make insanely large adjustments. They like to make micro adjustments and reapply themselves to the map. So we'll more than likely see Empire, at least if they do get into a situation like that again, just stack up and try and play for the trades instead of giving those isolated 1 versus 1s. Unfortunately enough, obviously they lose the case up top, so that took a lot of energy away from Empire. They could have possibly have carried through to those dying moments and try and get a plant down and force SANDBOX in towards the site to actually fight Empire, but obviously that was all for naught. SANDBOX are going to take it up to CCTV, and they're going to pull a page right out of Empire's book, well, basically anybody's book when it comes to a setup like this in the bans. Kaid back in the lineup. They're going to lock up everything here via the rafters in these electric claws.
Let's see if this will, once again, lend some credence to the SANDBOX defense and their potential survival in this tournament as they try to venture forward, save this map, rebound this map, and bring them back into it. That's going to be an interesting mirror, just placed right in the middle of it. Obviously, they'll have plenty of intel about when the breach is going to happen, and they could get a little bit cheeky by popping it open. In fact, I think they've already done that. Yeah, there you go. They're just going to open it right up as soon as they see people going in. So this should be cool to see how SANDBOX play this. I've seen a couple other teams try this in the past, usually with fairly mixed results, but curious to see how it works here for our friends from APAC.
It's a pretty risky setup overall, just because you're practically giving free access to the site in a certain sense. Obviously, the window works two ways, so bullets are still going to fly through. So they're going to be able to find this initially. Does Invitational have the impact? He does indeed. Does he stop it? Does he get it the second time? No, he doesn't. He's actually going to end up popping both of them. This is super unfortunate right now for SANDBOX. As of right now, this is not looking too hot, and I believe that's a secondary mirror window popped. Yes, it is. So many different avenues for them to try and abuse, at least out towards Empire, angle-wise. But obviously, again, that's a two-way street. Now for SANDBOX, have to win out a lot of these engagements to try and stave off Empire, who are biting at the bit currently, try and get themselves into this building. Drone game spinning up here to try and find some extra intel, extra insight as to what SANDBOX will be doing with the lower end of this map.
So half the round gone by. No action in terms of any players being taken out, but Empire have already opened up a lot of real estate to play with over on the primary balcony entrance. For the rest of the team, they do want some construction controls. They're going to be moving joystick in with drone support. It's got to be a little careful as, oh no, Invitational tries to make a dash outside after joystick faked the peek initially. He thought he was maybe going to go back, but instead he peeked right back out and was ready for the duel against him there. So Empire strike first yet again, bringing it down to a 5v4. Shepard could very well find the second and nearly does, as Harper's HP is ripped in half here now, trying to take the fight against him.
Harper low on HP, but willing to try and take this fight. Has to stay away from this smoke as well. They could possibly leak in and deal some extra damage. A nade out will be caught by the Wamai disc. Hopefully he doesn't do any extra damage to Harper, and it won't as he backs up. It'll be taken down from Shepard as he transitions off of the AC unit. Two bodies now down for SANDBOX. As always, will make it three. Static and Shyall, the last two remaining members of SANDBOX, and the last remaining hope for them as well. As Static will be able to find one. Shepard takes him down. It's all left up to Shyall, and he's dead to always. And that's gonna be it, ladies and gentlemen, as Empire dashes away the hope from SANDBOX Gaming.
An unfortunate way to end things here at their tournament run for SANDBOX, but important to note, guys, the series is not over just yet. Like I said, just there's no way for the scores, pretty sure anyway, to align for SANDBOX anymore and allow them to come back and potentially outpace the Sonics, even if outright they don't pick up any points. And we see a comeback for the SANDBOX roster in the next two maps. That would only leave them in a tie scenario at 2-2. And unfortunately, last time I checked in on the A stream, I'm pretty sure Sonics were in the lead. That was like 10, 15 minutes ago, so it may have flipped since then. We're going to check it obviously during the break, but yeah, not looking great for SANDBOX right now, and it's looking like once again they're going to be our team to be eliminated for this group. So commiserations to them, but we still have more to come in this series, so stick with us. We're going to take a short break. When we do come back, we'll have map number 2.